The first thing we wanted to do was we said, we want to do it. We want to do it in New York. We weren't gonna, we weren't gonna do a destination thing, and we weren't gonna try to, we wanted to bring everybody here because, we were sort of, because our love affair with this city is, exists such that we'd like to share that with everybody else. So I don't recall exactly how you came across these folks. Someone recommended them to you. I thought.
Maybe.
It's been a while. It's been a while.
We're getting old.
Yeah. But
it was one of the few places we visited, though. I mean, in terms of like actually shopping around, I think we maybe went to 2 places.
Talking to Dan about staging and lighting, and when I realized that he knew what he was doing, that this was that he could make it something, he could make it special. I had an idea in my head, and he found it, and I was, he was able to translate it. Whereas some of the other places we went to, I kind of got the feeling that they were just more interested in getting us in and getting us out, and not really, it was just going to be their cookie cutter setup. But I noticed that once we started talking and
tell them what your idea that was. So that was cool.
I'd seen a photograph in Architectural Digest years ago, not years ago, but I mean now, years ago, of Mickey Rourke's apartment here in New York. And it was, it was this sort of like New Orleans, Gothic bordello look, right? It was these deep, rich colors, extended onto the walls and through the furniture and everything else. And I thought, if we're going to be doing this in the evening, we're going to be doing this in the fall. I wanted to get the idea. I wanted to get that kind of that lush, like purple and red experience, because it was kind of. I wanted, because I knew that I'd read things and understood that those colors were sort of would bring out everyone's capacity for having a good time. Those colors, for whatever reason, make people more fun.
Well, I had a really specific idea about food, which is, yay, food. But, I was the bride. I was like, I'm going to eat at my wedding, and it better be good. Like, I'm not going to be like, I haven't eaten all day. Like, I want to sit down and have a delicious meal. And we both felt strongly, if people come to a wedding, we got married in our 30s. So, our attitude was, I've been to enough weddings. I've flown and all over the place. You're going to go somewhere. You're going to be treated like a fantastic guest. You're going to have wonderful food. The drinks are going to flow. You're going to have everything that you want. So our thing about food was, we're not going to sit there and give people a choice, like chicken and salmon. They're just going to show up and have fantastic food. And, we were like, we're giving them steak, and we're giving them just the best of everything. And that was, I think that was one of our first meetings too, when we were talking to Dan. He was like, oh yeah, no problem with that. So we just wanted to keep it coming. And that was important to us, because I felt like that's how our guests would know that we appreciate them. Like, this is our thank you to you for coming all this way, is that you have a fantastic night. And it was good.
It was really good. To this day, people are talking about it. I run into somebody who was at the wedding. They were, they're like, oh my God, I can still taste it. The food was unbelievable. Got me around thinking about it. Wow.
I literally remember the salad that we had, because it was a salad in just its most, loose use of the word, because there was some lettuce on the plate, and then it was like deep fried potato slivers. It was potato chips basically, and lobster, and people were like, "You just gave me potato chips and lobster. I love you."
Yeah.
It's like, I love me too right now. That was a good salad.
Yeah. Dan has a really sort of uncanny ability to translate what I was talking about, because it was one of these things. I don't speak the language, right? So, and I didn't have any reference material for him, because I knew I'd seen it in Architectural Digest, but I said, I don't have that edition. I don't know where to get it. I tried to go online and find it, and I couldn't find it. But I had it sort of in my head, and we sat down and we looked at stuff, and we looked at colors, and we talked about gels for the lights, and we talked about the table coverings, and and there were other like wall treatments and everything else. And I can't believe the word wall treatment just came out of my mouth. But yeah, and he was great. And, when we walked in, I thought this is it. This is exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah, there's so much about the lighting that I can't even explain to you now, but I remember we had one meeting that he was talking about gels, and you need a pink light to make it look like this and that, and he and Ken were talking, and I was kind of like, lights seem silly. Like, it's a wedding, it'll be beautiful. But the lighting was amazing. I still don't exactly know what they did, but I walked in and I was like, ugh. It was incredible.
Yeah. And because I had friends who where I went to school, there was a very big theater department, and I had friends who were in the theater department. And my parents were in the theater department, were in theater, and so there was this kind of, I had an idea in my head about when we started talking about lighting, and it didn't really ring with you at first, but I said, no, this is going to be probably the most important part of this whole.
Yeah, Dan and Ken said, trust us. And I said, okay, sounds good to me. And they did great.
Yeah. My biggest concern on our wedding day was that Carey had everything that she needed to have, and didn't have to, I didn't want her thinking about where this was, or where that was, or who's responsible for this, or who's responsible for that. And it was, it was sort of like, it was queen for a day. All the attention was focused on her, where it needed to be. My only job was to show up in a suit and make sure I could corral 5 of my closest friends into a couple of taxis and get them here. So it was kind of, I needed to make sure that, because we weren't together the day before, or right up until I hadn't seen her since it was 2 days beforehand.
Right.
So it was one of those things where I said, I've got no control over any of this. And I trusted them to take care of her, and they did, and they were great. Here it was, between the food service, it was they were in and out. It was it was kind of like they were like ninjas. They
were a little ninja-like.
It was just like, hey, there's cake. Where'd that come from?
My favorite part about the staff was Jim. My mom, the job that I gave to my mom was favors for the wedding to give to people. So she went crazy and got caps and visors made that said Ken and Carey, November 19th, 2005. And Jim wore his the whole night, which I thought was really sweet.
Yeah.
It was very cute. I showed up and he's like, I got my hat on.
It was great. There was no I would just sort of think to myself like, I'm a little thirsty, and I would, and all of a sudden there'd be a drink right in my hand, and I went, oh, this is fantastic.
Jim was great. I mean, it was, I just, the day of gave everything over to him, and when it was time to move somewhere, he corralled me somewhere and all of my people, and it was really seamless. If there was a problem, I don't know about it, which is probably the best thing, because I'm sure some stuff happened behind the scenes, but I wasn't aware of people coming in late. I wasn't aware of anything. One of our band members left her bra here, and Jim handled that somehow. But yeah, I mean, he was just, I felt like he touched my shoulder enough times to make sure, do you need anything? Are you okay? The answer was always like, no, I'm doing great, but not so much that I was like, leave me alone. I had a blast though. I mean, I had so much fun. It's almost hard for me to sort of think back on the logistics of the reception and the wedding because I had a blast. I had so much fun. And I just felt like I was attending something and not like planning it and not working on it. I just got to go. And be the center of attention.
Well, yeah, that's the most important part.